Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our Monday morning devotion. I'm going to be speaking to you today on issues that cause problems among brethren. Siblings don't always get along, and that's in the church or out of the church. And just as there are rules in families about how you treat your brother, there's also rules that God has for how we should treat our brethren. In God's family, we're all on the same team, and we have different jobs, but we're all important, no matter how small or large. No matter whether they're visible or invisible, they're all still important. Now, God has an individual plan for each of His children, but He has a plan about how we fit into the body, and that is according to our giftings. Ephesians 4:16 says, "From whom the whole body, fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth." Fitly joined together, that means in the original sense of laying, to render close. You see, we're like a gigantic puzzle that God is putting together. Every joint in the body supplies something only that joint can supply. And you can't force a piece of puzzle in place that doesn't belong there. Psalms 133:1 says, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." That means how good and how sweet it is for brethren together, like a unit. A unit is an individual thing or person, as single and complete, but it can also form an individual component of a larger or a more complex whole. The church is the whole. In 1 Corinthians 12:18, it says, "But now have God set the members, every one of them in the body, as it have pleased Him." God does what pleases Him and nobody else. All we do is just fall in line with what He does. Romans 12:4 says, "For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office," all the members don't have the same function, the same work. We all do different things in the church. And 1 Corinthians 12:17 says, "If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing?" What that says is we can't all be the eye. Sibling rivalry is nothing new. Competition between brethren, or brethren that try to be equal or try to surpass one another. But what we need to do, we need to identify our giftings and functions in the body, because when we don't, it causes friction among the brethren. And an example of that is in Genesis 37:8. Joseph's brothers hated him for his dreams and his words. A dream that God gave him, his brothers hated him for it. If our brother's office or giftings or experiences with God supersedes us, we don't have to dislike him. If our brother has been assigned to do something in the church, we shouldn't get angry at him because someone in authority has given him a job. And another example of this is in 1 Samuel 16:13. Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed David king in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came on David from that day. If David would have not been anointed, he could not have killed a lion, a bear, or Goliath. And in Samuel 17:28, it says, "And Eliab," that's David's oldest brother, "heard when he spake to the men at the battle, because David went to check on his brothers in the battle with the Philistines. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep?" How demeaning. And then he accuses David of being prideful and just being bad. God chose David over Eliab. Eliab was the oldest and David was the youngest, and that was like a slap in the face. Eliab was the first son that Jesse brought in for Samuel to look at, and God said, "That's not him." God refused and rejected Eliab, but Eliab took that out on David, his brother. Jealousy is a dividing spirit. It's called the green monster. And that same spirit is what caused Cain to kill his brother Abel. Now Cain was also rejected by God, and he took it out on his brother. Cain couldn't even go to his brother and say, "I need what you have." In John 7, 3, 4, and 5, his brother said unto him, "Depart hence, and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that doeth anything in secret, and he himself seeth to be known openly." In other words, they were saying, if you do these things, show yourself to the world. No one does secret things secretly if he wants to be known publicly. They were saying, if you do these things, you should let the world see you. That was Jesus' fleshly brethren speaking this to him. And in verse 5, it says, "For neither did his brethren believe in him." How hurtful. These were flesh and blood brethren that did not believe in their brother. I know the feeling of that. We need to consider our brethren's relationships with God. Cain physically murdered Abel. And we can kill our brethren with our words. We can damage with our words. We can damage our brother's reputation when they didn't do anything. It was God that set our brother on a different path. So if we have aught against our brother for position God put them in, we need to take that up with God. Proverbs 18 and 19 says, "A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city." When trust is broken, it's hard to win a man that has been offended. It's like trying to take a strong city. Because once there's an offense, it's hard to change their mind and to get them out of that. So the enemy will use that as a defense mechanism to stay rooted in the person. Psychologists have found out that our subconscious mind interprets what it hears very literally. The words that come out of our mouth creates reality that we inhabit. The subconscious is the part of the brain that is below the level of perception. But it's fully aware of our actions and feelings. For example, like breathing. We don't have to think to breathe. And new research shows that the brain matrix, which is the area in the brain that responds to pain, gets activated by pain-related words. When people hear certain words, that section of the brain triggers that retains memories is triggered. Our words can be uplifting or destructive. Back in January, Sister Susan taught a lesson on the power of our words. But let me share with you, Luke 4 and 22 says, "And all bear him witness, and wondered at the gracious words that proceeded out of his mouth." The words that came out of Jesus' mouth were kind, warm, tactful, compassionate, pleasing, and satisfying. Tactful is saying the right thing at the right time. And that was the words that came out of the Lord's mouth. 1 John 3 and 16 says, "Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren." This whole chapter in 1 John 3 and 3 talks about the love of God and how we should love our brethren. Galatians 6 and 10 says, "As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them which are of the household of faith. Paul is singling out a group of people here, the household of faith. He said, do good to everyone every chance you get, but make sure that you treat your brethren good. The Bible tells us that we need to strengthen our brethren, love our brethren, forgive our brethren, don't sow discord among our brethren, don't speak evil of our brethren. In January this year, Sister Susan mentioned this proverb: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That means that you might be able to hurt me with physical force, but not your insults. But I want to read you a poem by Ruby Redford about this proverb. It says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can also hurt me. Sticks and stones break only skin, while words are ghosts that haunt me. Slant and curve the words, swords fall, it pierces and sticks inside me. Bats and bricks may ache through bones, but words can mortify me. Pain from words have left its scars on mine and ears that's tender. Cuts and bruises have not healed. It's words that I remember. Let's practice being careful about the things that we say to our brother and how we treat our brethren. God bless you. Thank you for joining us for our Monday morning devotion. Have a blessed day in Jesus' name.